always feel like jumping out of the screen when I hear that music. Welcome to Down South Anomalies. And we are part of the Untold radio network and proud to be. My beautiful wife, Aspasia, and my name's Jay Katz. And tonight's episode is something quite extraordinary.
It is.
It's actually where we've been meaning to go from the very beginning. And that is into the heart and soul of this podcast.
Okay.
The female of the species and one of the most powerful ones on the planet,
Absolutely.
Tara Foster, and we're calling her editor of the Anomalous.
We are.
She goes under numerous pseudonyms like I do. As she's
You've
Tara
only got one pseudonym, Katz.
Oh, I know I have, but hey, Tara Australis, which
yeah.
I absolutely love, or Tara, the producer.
All right, yes.
Go and punch that into Google. It will make
We'll put the links up at the end.
It will make
so
you
people
so
can check them
obsessed about just doing more with your life.
Absolutely.
This is one person that will elevate you totally. This is the only sort of lecture you ever need to build your strength to go forward.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Do you want to do the welcome to country?
Yes, I will. And so we have
acknowledgement, actually, not
we do have to acknowledge the traditional owners. Now, a very important message to everyone. We are broadcasting from stolen land here in Sydney, Australia, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. And we acknowledge and respect elders past, present, and emerging.
There you go. You always do it better than me. I always fluff it. I don't know why, but anyway.
Anyway, look, this lady in front of us is a major storyteller. Her career started at 14. I get a feeling it started right at the beginning.
I think
right
probably at
there.
inception.
We'll ask about mum and dad, because she has to have come from a good family, because she has got so much
People
drive.
like that are not bred in vacuums, I can tell you now.
You know, she went into public TV, a little like I did, the cat TV, but mine went nowhere.
Different kind
the
of
signal fell
TV.
off the building and into the gutter when I was working for public TV. And during that, she was working for a production company. She started producing award-winning documentaries, like writing about fire safety, like Brian Trenchard Smith, did Hospitals Don't Burn, news, docos, radios, TV commercials.
Yep.
She's also a major worldwide adventurer.
Mm-hmm. Would you say adventuress?
Yeah, you could.
Or do we not?
You could. Oh, I don't know. And we have to acknowledge too, we're at the tail end of World Pride, but it should be World Pride 24/7.
No, World Pride. Yeah, we are at the tail end of World Pride. Yeah.
Okay, editor for Discovery Channel.
Yes.
She's probably edited me out of numerous documentaries. NBC News, CBS News.
Yep.
Not just that, she has constructed some of the world's winning edit suites.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
She does everything. She writes, she produces, she's an incredible producer. She's even lived with a group of headhunters.
Oh.
Which was just one of those moments where she decided, I need to just take it up one more ratchet.
Of course you do. Yeah.
Let's go and live with the head.
So how do you get away with not becoming dinner?
Yeah, what happens in dinner time there? Or going to the outhouse?
They stopped doing all that because the English people came into the area and were a little bit freaked out.
They
missionized them. Oh, God.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the way to take all the colour out of life, isn't it?
She's done extraordinary stuff with NASA, ESA. She's actually witnessed the launch of a SpaceX rocket.
Right.
I'm glad we've got someone that can say it was real. You know what I mean? She has done an incredible, thoughtful series of web shows about how to actually use social media constructively.
Right.
And today, that might be one of the most valuable assets in the entire world.
Most people could probably do with that lesson.
She decided out of the blue, in between jobs, that she was going to actually engineer a new push bike and take it around Ireland of all places because she, don't quote me here, but she is in front of us. But she said to me she'd never met a bad Irish person.
Okay.
So she felt safe there.
Okay.
Yeah, and I wonder if, did you have any moments with the fairies or the trolls or the gremlins? Because I still get a feeling that stuff, even though they call it mythology, could be based on truth.
Well, I do have a bit of a story if you'd like to hear it.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
All right, let me just finish this introduction.
There's more, but wait, there's more.
She is a STEM advocate. Now, that is not like me when I see a young person and run up and try and smell their replicating DNA.
Yeah,
not
that
kind
kind of STEM.
After their stem cells.
No.
But the stem cells with Tara, this is all about actually being that bridge like Alan Alda was.
Oh, right, yes.
Between science and the proletariat.
Okay.
And she can explain more to that as it goes along, because we believe entirely in science when it comes to the anomalous. And I think if science was to come on board,
they need to come on board,
walk away from all the cultural corruption, because there's so much noise attached to the signal of the anomalous world that it's hard to differentiate if there is truth to it. But about 10% of that signal, science has already proven that there's absolute truth to, and we need to widen our scope and our imagination. Thanks for bumping the entire program there.
There you go. Oh,
well,
God.
Without any further ado, thank you and welcome to Untold Radio's Down South Anomalies. It's lovely to have you here, Tara.
Thank you for having me. This is going to be so much fun.
Oh, yeah.
And we're so excited to have you. One of the major reasons why we've got you is you stepped into our building. Can you go to that shot of the archives there?
Which one?
You saw The Way We Live, which is
saw the nightmare.
It's the sordid hoarders buried alive. As you came on board as an editor for EQ Media, for the new television series that is yet to premiere in this country. I think it's going on 7 Mate.
Yes.
And it's called Close Encounters Down Under. Now, was that an attraction you had to that series, or was that just another job? Can I ask you that?
Well, I was speaking with the EP, David Outridge, and he suggested that, might as well give it a go, because I have the background in space, so I can kind of give it a bit more gravitas of what we're looking at. There's these anomalies in space, and I have a space background, and why not put the two together and see what happens? Sure.
Did you manage to? We have not seen an episode yet. We've seen the 30-second trailer. That's how generous EQ is with us. But we've seen the 30-second trailer. And did Avi Loeb, our astrophysicist, that said that object that appeared from deep space could have possibly been something else, did you get to interview him for the first series?
I personally did not, but the producer did. So he was the one that took that on board and had an interview with him. Yeah.
Evidently, wow. I don't know if you've heard the news. He's very excited. He's coming out to Papua New Guinea with a team from NASA. I think they've got a couple of $1 million, and they're going to try and actually grab a meteorite that went down over a decade ago, because of the analysis that they've been able to do on that meteorite impact. Looks like that it's got a very high percentage of iron beyond what we can refine on the planet.
All right. Okay.
So there could be an anomalous object just sitting off the shore of Papua New Guinea, and I'm going to have to find some way to actually crash tackle him if he flies into Sydney on the way to Papua New Guinea to get him on Untold Radio. But that is really exciting to me, because there you have one of the world's leading astrophysicists that's willing to entertain that possibility. But one thing I really want to do, and let's get just a little title card for Close Encounters.
Oh, yes.
Down Under Up. It's very rarely that Australia gets to present a series about our anomalous events that occur down here, and they're just as profound and even more active than a lot of the centers during the world in the world. It's quite incredible. I think there was Oz Encounters. Channel 7's actually always been a champion down here.
They have.
The free-to-air broadcaster.
Yep.
They did in 1997, I think, Oz Encounters. Moira McGee and numerous other researchers were in that. That investigated the Gosford sightings.
Yes, they did.
Huge body of water. These objects were coming out of the water.
What was that other show in the early 90s?
The Extraordinary?
Oh, The Extraordinary.
I think that was early 90s, you're right.
Yeah, early 90s.
And again, that was on Channel 7.
Yeah, that was on Channel 7, yeah.
We
The Extraordinary
have
was
a
amazing.
16mm print.
It was extraordinary, actually.
Yeah. We have a 16mm print from Roger Clemson was a newsreader in the 70s on Channel 7, and he did a documentary called UFOs, Fact or Fiction. We don't believe that's even in the ATN7 archives.
No, it's not.
So we have that print. That has a great moment pre-digital imaging, Tara, where someone wants to remain anonymous but is willing to tell their story on the camera. So they take them to Lane Cove National Park, and they pull a tree branch down and hold it in front of their face for the entire interview.
That was the pixelation process.
Quite remarkable.
I love it. It's fabulous.
Anyway,
that's pretty creative.
It is.
It is very creative. Can we just move down? I wanted to show something here first, because Tara. No. Move down to the moving imagery.
Oh,
Tara has a great site under her other pseudonym, Tara Australis, you know, and
which one?
I just thought, let's go to this, because you know what? There's something you and Tara have in common, because you migrated to this country when you were 8 or 9.
7.
I never get that right. We've been together 32 years. Let's have a look at this.
If you're not sure, don't say it.
Okay.
Say a long time ago.
Okay, let's
anyway,
have a look
here we go. Yeah, not a happy crab.
Explain to us what was happening there. That's called hand crabbing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you just go in the water, you swim around, and you see a crab, and you go after it, and you hope that you don't get pinched, because if you get pinched, then it really hurts, so you can lose a finger.
Yeah.
And you used to do a lot of that with your father.
I did. My dad used to take us fishing every weekend. Every weekend we went fishing. We used to go down to Lady Macquarie's Chair. Or Mrs. Macquarie's Chair.
One of the two.
And fish off the rocks there, and we would play in the rock pools all day, all day Sunday. And so I became very comfortable with the ocean and the seaside until I saw an educational film at school on 16mm called Blue Ringed Octopus.
Oh, yes.
Wow. That was
traumatizing.
Took me a few weeks, a few Sundays before I actually even ventured back into the water. That totally traumatized me. The blue ringed octopus.
I've seen them about that big down at
they're tiny,
Beach,
but they
just
will
walking around. Yeah.
So I had no clue about these things. I was totally, oblivious. Just cruising the rock pools. Not worried about a thing, and then I find out about these creatures, and I'm like, I'm not going anywhere near the water for quite a while. But
now, look,
that wore off as well.
The takeaway from hand crabbing for me,
but my dad did show me,
how to do it properly.
How to pick up a crab,
and Tara shows us that in 23 seconds.
And they can't get you.
So how do you do that? Explain.
Well, you just grab them from the back. Like pinch them, from the top and bottom, and just grab them like that, and just keep your hand away from the front, from their nippers. Otherwise, you'll lose a finger, So, and because my dad used to do lots of octopus, crabs, and fish. We just lived on that diet. It was amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
Now, where were you born, Tara? Do you mind me asking that personal question? It's out of nowhere.
I'm originally from New Jersey, the south part of New Jersey, so around the Pine Barren region.
Right. Wow, isn't that a surprise to us? I think you actually got a bit of heightened telepathy there, because we were going to talk to you about that incredible tale, the Jersey Devil. Can you extrapolate on any stuff that you might have experienced there? Because that tale of Mother Leeds and her 13th child is quite an extraordinary tale, and people are still having Jersey Devil sightings today.
But you know what? It's like when you've come up to the 13th, it doesn't even have to be a bad luck child. Just having 13 children. I mean, God, talk about prolapsed uterus and what is going on there? What is wrong with people? God. Anyway, sorry.
Yeah. That region of New Jersey, the Pine Barrens, is very biologically diverse. It's very sandy. It's got like certain mushrooms that you can only find there, certain animals, flora, fauna, because of the sandy region. And so there's a lot of weird things that actually happen in the area. So, for instance, we have the legend of the Jersey Devil. The 13th child came out of the chimney and started terrorizing the whole community, and it just stayed in the Pine Barren region. on the
Wow.
property where I grew up. Because I grew up, it was basically, it's called Creek Run Recreational Park and Swim Club. And it was created by my grandfather. And it was where families would come out and, you know, go to the...
Is that quite famous, that park? I think I've read about it.
Yeah, it's evolved since the recreational park and swim club. But it's now a day camp actually for kids ages 4 through 12.
Wow.
But it was a very old area, and on the back of the property we used to have a chair there, and everyone used to say, the chair was in the trees. Everyone used to say that the Jersey Devil, this picture of the Jersey Devil, would sit in the tree, and people had said that they had seen that devil in the tree. There's other things that have happened as well in the past where my grandfather, he was out one night, and this is like, you know, before mobile phones or anything like that, or anything crazy. And like a simpler time, like in the 40s, like before the 40s. And he was just out there, and all of a sudden he heard like this blood curdling scream, and he didn't know where it came from because it was such a rural part of New Jersey. And legend has it that it was the Jersey Devil.
Wow.
Also, around the lake where I used to live, we used to have we had orbs, and people sometimes thought it was swamp gas. So swamp gas that would come out of the swamp, and it would be just this ball of light, and it would just float by. And other people said it was like the Native Americans that had lived there, because we had a lot of Indian arrowheads that you would find everywhere in the area. So it was a big Lenni Lenape and Delaware Indian tribe, Native American tribe that used to frequent that area as well. So there's like a lot of things that have happened in that region where I grew up. So, and also even as a kid, I remember I was really little, I would hear my name called and nobody would be on the property for forever. Like there was just nobody around. You just hear your name and you're like, oh, that's weird. So
You know
yeah,
what?
lots of little things.
They're trying to lure you.
But that's a very interesting thing, because in Native American culture, in Bigfoot research, one of the things they hear all the time is people having their name called, like their partner or their mother or their friends doing it. And it's that notion of luring them into that darkness, into that woods. But also it seems to be a trait of this encounters with this parallel hominid, that they're great at mimicking things. So I take it there must be some Bigfoot, Sasquatch stories from that area as well. I mean, pine cones seem to be something they're attracted to.
Yeah, there's a lot of pine cones because it's a very piney area, very sandy, piney. Like you have big pine cones, little pine cones. Like there's everything in the area. It's such a unique part of America that everyone forgets because they think New Jersey and they think like northern New Jersey, but they forget that the south part of New Jersey is quite diverse and beautiful and vast.
So Bigfoot stories come out of there as well that you're aware of?
You know, I'm not entirely sure. I mean, this is weird. This is really weird because my dad's nickname when he was around used to be Bigfoot.
Wow.
So, and I'm sure this is why I'm sitting here, because I'm trying to figure out if there is a correlation between his nickname and Bigfoot. Yeah. So that's why I'm sitting here thinking. Yeah.
So what did your parents tell you about the Jersey Devil? I mean, how did they?
Were they open to all of this?
Did they say that it's a real thing, or it was, you know, folklore?
Oh, totally. They were totally open to everything because both my parents had seen really weird things over time.
Right.
Like I was saying, those orbs, they have seen the orbs floating around the lake. They have also seen like my grandmother in the other room after she died. She was glowing green. So they were quite open to all these things. And I remember as a kid, and I still have this book, the Jersey Devil book. It's a book that was produced in New Jersey. It's red, and it's all about the Jersey Devil and all the newspaper clippings and all the stories.
Wow.
And I remember as a little kid, I used to go through it and just pore over the pages and read all about it. Like you can go to a place called Batstow, which is in New Jersey, and they celebrate the Jersey Devil as well. I mean, even the teams, the local hockey teams, they're the Jersey Devil. So it's quite a celebrated thing, and everyone has some sort of Jersey Devil story.
Right. You know what's fascinating here, and I'll just digress back to a little thing that you said about the orbs. Now, you've got more than enough experience, especially as an editor and someone who's probably been behind the camera as well and worked with a plethora of cinematographers, to be aware that there is a whole line of thought that we're looking at dust particles here at different levels of depth of field and focusing. And as far as I can tell, and I've done extensive research into this over decades, it's got nothing to do with dust particles. And when you talk about swamp gas or a plasma, you know, like ball lightning, you've got a very small window of time for that object to exist. It's a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
And what people see is much longer experiences than that. So what is your thoughts on that, coming from that filmic background that you have?
Oh gosh. You know, as someone who works in film and television and everything, I'm able to step through frame by frame to see things.
Yeah,
I can change the color. I can change the consistency and everything when I'm looking at it. So you can see what it is and make out what it is. Or if you don't think anything's there, you can lighten it and you can actually see things as well. So from that point of view, you know, it's kind of hard to debunk things.
Yeah, of course.
But personally, I have had experiences with orbs. I've had two actually that are quite unique, and I can't explain it. I was sitting in my car in Washington, D.C. in traffic. There's another car in front of me, and it's just like a small road. And all of a sudden, from the sidewalk, so it's going from one sidewalk to the other, a green orb just kind of comes out of nowhere and just forms. Like, it wasn't round to begin with. It just started to kind of form one side and the other, and it floated by, and it was green, and it looked like this electricity. But then after it passed the front of my car, like it was walking in front of my car and the car in front of me. Sorry for the hands.
Yeah.
And then it just disappeared the same way it did. Like, it faded, like you would do a wipe in
So it like dissolved.
film. Yeah, it just dissolved, like you're doing a film, like a wipe in Star Wars, you know.
Okay.
And it just disappeared. And it's like, I'm sitting there and I'm like, this is really weird. It's green, it looks electric, but I can't explain it. And how can something just dissolve in and dissolve out like that and just keep going at such a gentle pace? Like, it almost looked like it was walking because of the way it was going up and down, you know. That was quite fascinating. And then the second time, which happened,
can I just hold you there and ask you how long that experience would have been for? How long do you imagine that would have been?
Probably 7 to 10 seconds.
Right.
Okay.
And
that's still too long for something like ball lightning or swamp gas or plasma. It's too long.
Yeah, it was fascinating to see it. And then the other thing that happened to me was about 2 to 3 days later. I was on a train in Washington, D.C. on the metro, and about I would say about 5 or 6 seats in front of me, this ball. It was there was like 3 people on the train. This ball, white ball, looked like a golf ball, rose up, came up, and then came toward me. It went by this ear like that, and I could hear it. It moved my hair, and then I turned and I watched it keep going back behind me. And I'm looking forward, looking behind me, going, what did I just see? It, like, because it came up and it hovered, and then I could hear it, and it flicked my ear.
Do you
How does that
remember
happen?
what the weather conditions were like during that
was on the
experience?
train.
But was there storms outside? Any electrical?
Was there a
activity?
swamp nearby?
No.
Well, I was underground.
Yeah,
I was
right. Well,
because
yeah.
The DC Metro, Washington DC Metro, they're all bunkers, and they're all, you know, they're in the Potomac region, which is there's a Potomac River, and then it
Yeah.
they used to have a swamp in there. That's where the Union Station is. That used to be a swamp area where the Union Station is. And I believe I was heading toward Union Station, but I was quite far out. So I don't know, but just I was underground, like quite underground when it all happened.
The only reason I raised that is that, you know, there was a lot of dissension around the notion of orbs and ball lightning there for a long time in academia. And it took an incident of ball lightning actually moving straight down the fuselage of a commercial plane around a group of astrophysicists that were going to a convention, evidently, for it to be labeled ball lightning. And it's quite fascinating. But look, the plethora, the absolute tens of thousands of photographs, and this connected in some way to sort of from spiritualism to being there in so many ufological. The incredible thing is when you look back at the ufological film footage, and so much easier to actually ascertain whether we're looking at something genuinely in the environment or not when you're looking at film, 16mm, 35, Standard 8, Super 8. You can see it there a lot easier than you can with digital. That these things seem to be there with every UFO encounter and around the object that's being looked at, but they might appear for a fraction of a second. They might appear on 1 or 2 frames, disappear, reappear later on. But those balls of light have been there continuously. And they're truly linked very strongly to notions of like spirits of indigenous elders past.
The min-mins,
and we've got them here.
We call them min-mins here.
And I think they're called the Marthalites in Texas. They're called the Earthlights. The geophysicists will tell you it's tectonic plates rubbing together, but how does that happen when you're submerged in a train, you know, deep? Anyway, so I'm sorry to hear Dad's no longer with us, Tara.
No. Dad has moved on, and so has Mom. Actually, they're both passed on to the next thing, whatever's in front of us. So they're no longer walking this earth.
They would be so proud of your achievements. I can feel that. But I'm so glad to hear that they were open to all of this. And they must have been incredible people in themselves to give you the strength to become this powerful person out there.
Yeah, they're quite supportive. It was
what
a pretty
was
cool
their
childhood.
background? What did they do? I mean, what was their work and interests? I'm sorry to put you on the spot.
It's fine. My dad was actually a laborer. He would work on all the roads. So he actually built most of the roads in New Jersey. Wow. And my mom, she created the business for children ages 4 through 12, basically a day camp called Creek Run. So it went from it was a family area, which was recreational park and swim club. And then it became, in the 80s, that's when it became Creek Run Day Camp. So, and then all the children from the area used to come out. So my mom used to be the camp director, and she used to send me off to go to summer camp and steal all the ideas and bring them back.
Right, okay. My mother used to do that. She'd get me to inspect other people's bathrooms with her in their house. She wanted to know.
That's a little bit different to you.
Yeah, I know. Very different. Let's have a look at some of, we were looking there at what is just one of the plethora of news stories about the Jersey Devil. And the difference is people see this cloven hoof.
Oh, the cloven hoof.
So here is from an amazing case. There's a human footprint with the
Do you know
hoof.
the name of that case?
No, I'm not sure. Okay. And many times they've appeared on people's rooftops. Let's go to this next image, which I get a feeling could be absolutely faked. It looks like someone's picked that up and thrown it. That's supposed to be a photograph, a recent one.
No.
Looks a bit unicornish, doesn't it?
Well, it's supposed to be goat-ish.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That doesn't look right to me. Yeah. Anyway.
Okay. Sorry about that.
That's But the original one, which was a rendition which we put up before. So it's got is that like a goat head?
It's supposed to be part horse, part goat.
Part horse, part goat. Yeah. Okay.
It's very unique.
It's got the hooven. The clothes.
And different again to like the Mothman, which people would be aware of.
Anyway.
So fascinating. So this must have been an incredible thing to actually find yourself all of a sudden on this TV series dealing with all these. And how do you edit that material? I mean, one thing about these researchers in all of these fields, and I guess it's the same in all industry, is there seems to be this notion of like, we were leading rather insignificant lives. Bang, something astounding occurs to us. We're about to solve this riddle and no one else is. And I think sometimes there is just so much,
I say it every time. Every episode.
It's exhausting that field.
It is. It's sad.
And so trying to edit all those people down, there's a desperation too, I think, when people actually, their notion of consensus reality collapses. And they have to take in a bigger, broader picture. It threatens everything.
Yeah.
It threatens your religiosity, the way that you perceive the world.
Your place
So how do you go about as an editor trying to put that into like a 42-minute television hour? How do you do that?
I know with this documentary, there was about 200 interviews from different witnesses all over Australia, Papua New Guinea, and New Zealand. So
wow,
and the interviewers would basically just talk to the people and let them tell their story and just ask questions. And the stories were fascinating. And the consensus was everybody's like, this is what happened to me. And I don't know what it was, but I believe it happened and I can't explain it. And so my role was to go in and to just bring down the story, to make it more concise and just to let them tell it and just put in the supporting documentation and zoom in a little bit on whatever object was floating down to earth, or rising back up or slowing it down just so you can see frame by frame what it was. And I mean, sitting there in the edit suite, we were all doing that. We were calling people in going, look at this, let's slow this down, look, and then stepping through it frame by frame. And that was the luxury that I had as an editor. I could actually do that. I could actually spend the time and look at it like frame by frame. It was wonderful.
So when you started, had you considered, the whole UFO phenomena? Had you, pondered it and kind of had some sort of a notion of what you perceived it to be?
Well, I think every story is a little bit different. I mean, I've had my own encounters when I was 14. I remember sitting in the pool at home and looking up and then just seeing this metallic object just hovering above me for 30 minutes, and I couldn't explain it. It was there and I was looking at it and then I looked away, and when I looked back it was gone and it was in that spot and I can't explain it.
Still as vivid in your mind?
Oh yeah, I can
all these years later.
I can see it. I can hear the trees. I know what the weather was. I'm like transported back there, and I know where I was in the moment, the time, the weather, the smell, everything.
Right. Yeah.
So that's a really heightened emotion, and the memories like that. A distinct, clear memory. 9 times out of 10, especially traumatic memories. They can give you post-traumatic stress disorder. There's something that's not going to go away. And every witness we speak to, you can tell if this even happened 50, 60 years ago, their memory is clearer about that incident than basically the rest of their life.
It's that saying, I know what I saw. They're adamant.
I'm very curious about this experience when you were 14. Could you tell us anything about that? The height, the elevation, what the object looked like, the width of it?
It was a bright summer, sunny day, blue skies. There was wind. I can hear the leaves rattling. There's wind, and I can't tell you how high it was because I don't know how big the object was, but it was high enough in the sky, like it was high enough in the sky for me to look at it that it was far, like I knew it was far, and this is before drones. This is like in the 90s, we didn't have this. No. And it would just kind of like float and just kind of like go up and down and just it just hovered and then would come back. It would right itself and come back to that little area. And then float this way a bit and then come right back. And so it wasn't, to me, it wasn't a balloon because it was able to move itself. And this is before the drone technology. So why is it hovering there? Why? And then after a while, you get a bit bored because I've been staring at this thing for 30 minutes trying to figure out what it was. And I just kind of looked away for a second. And then when I looked back, it was totally gone. And I'm like, that is weird. So I don't know if that was distracting me from something else happening. I do think about that. I'm like, ooh, what if I was being spied on somewhere else? Or what if something was sneaking up behind me, but I was looking at this orb?
Isn't that interesting? Because that actually is very consistent with thousands of reports that people feel some personal interaction. And there's some reason why they've been drawn to look at this. Did you hear any noise from the object itself?
None whatsoever. And another thing, I didn't feel threatened. I just felt like I was looking at something amazing and different. But I didn't feel scared. I didn't feel, I wasn't frightened. I didn't feel out of place. I just kind of went, ooh, if I'm looking at this, maybe there's something going on around me. But I felt fine.
When I was a child, we lived on a reserve in Artarmon in Sydney, and we had these next door neighbours that were a bit more socially and financially up there than we were, and they had built a floating patio, which is just a patio on bricks that could see over our fence, right? And during the night, we would have lots of anomalous orb activity in the backyard. But my father wasn't having that this is anything anomalous. He knew it was the neighbors trying to get the best of us. And with their dolphin torches, he went out and brought fiberglass sheeting and built it up around the fences. And you know what the funny thing is? The orbs still.
Those dolphin batteries were still there.
Yeah. They couldn't put their torch over the top of that. But that's how my father dealt with it. You know, he was infuriated that I would even have any interest in that subject whatsoever. But I had an experience at school, very similar. I don't know if you must be aware of the Westall case now in Melbourne.
Very much. I cut the story.
All right. Wow. Okay. There you go.
So I had an experience at school. The objects didn't land, but one hovered for the entire lunchtime in the adjacent football fields. And the school teachers did have a very difficult time trying to break that down to just a weather balloon. So that was when my interest kicked off. And I was shocked when I was, 12, 13, looking at literature that showed all these people with highly scientific credentials like J. Allen Hynek and Jacques Vallée looking seriously at this subject matter, that it made me pause and think, it's just not my obsession with science fiction cinema. There is something else going on. Look, one of the things we try and, gesticulate during these podcasts, and it's probably the worst word to say.
That's not the right word, but anyway.
Is to us, it's not a matter of coming
this
to...
This is gesticulating.
Yeah, okay, calm down. It's not coming to a hypothesis or an idea about this, but it's dealing with the human wake of this experience and wanting people to feel better about themselves, that sometimes this stuff we call paranormal or supernatural might just be natural, might be just normal, and we no longer have that cultural template. And we've spent most of our life trying to lift up, the really interesting people in the community that feel insecure about themselves, because I think in many ways I identify with that myself. But I did come across something on that Tara Australis site that just absolutely blew my mind in that regard, and it had me in tears, Miss Death. You're out bottling.
I'm not Miss Death.
Sorry, that's Asper's other stage name, which we've been banned from using in the States, and it just slipped out of me.
Yeah, Miss Death is not.
Yeah.
Anyway, so
can we just look very quickly at random travels with friends?
Okay.
And if this doesn't pick you up and change the way you perceive living, and this is one of the most beautiful, empowering, and economic in terms of time pieces I've ever seen.
Okay.
So genuinely beautiful in so many ways. And we lost a really good colleague in the field this week, an amazing father who has a 7-year-old daughter. And we believe that we've lost this person to depression. And an incredible researcher, incredible writer, Robbie Williams. He gave us Silver Screen Sources, Reframing the Debate, and so much more. Robbie Graham, what am I saying?
Robbie
Williams. No. But Robbie's got an interest in UFOs. But
oh, absolutely.
Gave us so much more, and our heart goes out to him and his family. But, sometimes, Doug Hychek from Untold Radio told us, the wheel goes down, but we've all got to remember that the wheel comes back up again.
Always, yeah.
And sometimes, there's those, none of us will understand the depths of depression and what other people can go through emotionally. But just that short 2 minutes and 36 seconds is so profound and can do so much good for people. And we all need to liberate ourselves away from this technology and really experience life. This whole thing about virtual reality will reach out. This is your real 3D, when you can grab the person you love.
Yeah, they go and watch a 3D movie. It's like life is actually 3D. This is 3D.
Yeah, and I do apologize deeply to Robbie Graham's family for using that hideous Robbie Williams as the wrong name in there.
That's right.
But that actually picked us up. We had a dreadful night there. We couldn't sleep. He's the 5th interview in our podcast. And we looked at this material of yours, Tara. We read what you've done with your life. And you've used your life as an example for others to aspire and lift their game up. It's so beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Thank you. That music, that's from my favorite artist, Tom Rosenthal, and if you would love listening to everything because it's just his storytelling, and it's just beautiful storytelling like that song. And yeah, I just really identify with it.
We still DJ out there. We're Rear Groove DJs, and your grandparents are in the house. But music means a lot to us, and we find those times where
it can really change your whole mood
so rapidly. It's such a great art form in that regard. And
you could be feeling a bit down, and then you put on even just the first few bars of a song that I really like, and I'm like, oh, this is beautiful. I love it, and it just it just changes. It shifts your mood to somewhere else,
Finds your mind.
Yeah. Anyway,
all right. I cannot thank you more for that. Now, you seem to have been this way with everything, and let's have a look from your space family. This is when you're dealing with these social media influencers around NASA and the space program. But you seem, you're so empowering that you can do these short films, which look to me as if you're doing half of them with not incredibly elaborate equipment at all, but you're doing them on the run and doing them really well. And this one is, we know of the mental anguish and the amount of strife out there after COVID, the mental stress that people are having to deal with. And they haven't really confronted those problems. We're not hearing about them the way we should. And that's our 17-year-old cat.
He's 18 now.
Who's got a bit of dementia and gets very loud. Okay. Anton, say hello, darling.
There he is. Okay.
There he is.
Right.
Okay, so let's have a look at this.
Okay.
And then
do you want to tell us about was this at NASA?
Maybe give us a lead into this.
Yeah.
This was actually made because we were all in COVID at the very, very beginning of COVID, where we didn't know anything was going on. And these are just friends that I have met over time in the space community from all over the world. And they just wanted to participate, so we were able to make this.
So when you say
video.
Friends you've met, are we talking about not just social media influencers that love NASA and love the space program, but you're talking about astronauts, cosmonauts, the whole lot, aren't you?
Well, we don't have astronauts or cosmonauts in this video. Well, actually, now we do. We have one. She actually was one of the inspiration for astronauts, so she technically is an astronaut now. That's Cyan Proctor who's in it. But to make a long story short, to explain how I got into this, I did a social media event with NASA about, I guess 10 years ago now. And from there, I realized that there was a subculture within it of this community of space people that use social media to talk to other people, to go to these events and to cover them. And essentially we all became digital journalists in our own right. You know, we would go to these events and cover them in our own way. So instead of being tied to a newspaper or to a broadcaster, we were our own broadcasters and we used our own medium. So for me, it was microblogging. I did a lot of writing and threading using Twitter. And occasionally I would do like a live report on Twitter or another social media platform and talk about the experience of what's going on and who's there and doing interviews. And so throughout that, because I basically traveled all over the world doing it, I met all these wonderful people and we all became friends because of that.
Wow,
Okay.
that's incredible.
All right, let's
Okay,
have a look
let's
at
have
this
a
now.
look at.
Hey everyone.
Hello.
G'day.
Hey everyone.
Hi,
I know that it seems pretty uncertain right now.
and that you may feel trapped.
That you may be feeling trapped.
But we just wanted you to know.
But we just wanted you to know.
But we just wanted to let you know
that we are
That we're
That we're your
Twitter family.
That we are your Twitter family.
that we're your Twitter family.
And we are here to lend an ear.
and we're here to lend an ear,
Or a laugh.
a fact,
a like.
a like,
A like.
a like, and another like,
A like and a tweet.
And a tweet.
And a tweet.
a tweet.
Just remember.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
that you're not alone.
You're not alone.
You're not alone.
You are not alone.
Reach out.
Reach out.
Reach out.
Reach out.
And don't forget,
Don't forget.
And don't forget
And don't forget. And don't forget
to look up.
look up.
look up.
And don't forget to look up at the stars.
At the stars.
But the stars.
At the stars.
Vers les étoiles.
And we can do this.
All of us.
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 Together.
Together. Together.
Together.
Together.
Together.
Now I feel like really crying. Yeah, it is so beautiful.
Yeah, I was just thinking while watching it because I have not seen that in years. There's so many countries represented there from all over, and I just loved. Oh my gosh, I forgot I made it. So that was just something fun to do, just for everyone. Yeah.
But so empowering and a very important message there. And rolling off the back of our colleague that we've lost, you know, people need to reach out to each other. They need to be intimate with each other and tell each other their greatest fears and what's happening to them.
Yeah.
Because there is unity in strength and there is people that will care for you out there. So I think that that is one of the most profound messages I've ever witnessed in a short film.
Thank you. Thanks. I also like to mention
Welcome to
that
the
Mike Mongo, who's in this, is going to be on one of the next SpaceX missions to space. So he's actually in training right now, and he was in that video. So he's going to be an astronaut as well.
So do you have reasonable dialogue with Mike? Do you still speak to Mike?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, he's on Twitter. I contact him occasionally. Yeah, he's a great guy. I mean, I'm so proud of him for what he's going to achieve, what he already has achieved. He actually goes around and he trains. He's written a book about astronaut training. He goes to schools and he teaches kids how to become astronauts. He's gone to Scotland, of all places, and helped out kids learn how to be astronauts. Like he's an amazing person. He's done amazing things. He's from California. Yeah, he's a great guy, crazy glasses, like
Yeah.
genuine guy.
You can see he's got a sense of humor.
Well, we need him to power up his iPhone. Tell him to take that with him and please make him aware that we are completely in awe of science, but we do need a scientist to record anomalies just so we can get out there and crack that mainstream sort of corruption of thought. So I want everyone listening to start doing it themselves, but please you've got the contacts. If you can start recording any anomalies you pick up, doing any show, I don't care if it's My Kitchen Rules, Death Row Narratives, the thousands of shows that you've done. If anything appears there, Tara, if we can keep in touch with you and maybe do a cast with you every 6 or 12 months, we don't want to put any pressure on you.
But we will.
But we will. Well, would you be able to do that for us? Just keep an ear to the
Absolutely.
ground of anything odd that appears. Now, the other thing is you worked politically there at one stage. Well, you were with the Clinton White House. And you
Oh
actually got-
yeah, the former Clinton White House. They created a company, and we did marketing and campaigns and stuff. And they did Al Gore's campaign, and that was a very long time ago when I was in university as a student, a very a student that wanted to change the world. So I did a bit of that. It was good fun.
And
I have
you
a
were
degree
looking-
in politics. Yeah.
Wow. You were looking after the the Kennedys there, I believe, at one stage. You had some.
Yep.
Tell us about that. I'm curious. We're coming up to the 60th anniversary this year of the assassination.
I've met Kathy Kennedy Townsend in the office. I've spoken to Joe Kennedy a few times. I've worked for the Shriver campaign, so he's a Kennedy by marriage. So I worked on his campaign for a long time ago. Gosh, I was in my 20s at the time. He didn't win, but it was still cool.
There's some interesting ufological information around him as well at that time. And, it's amazing just where he was wanting to take the space program, because he really wanted to actually make it a joint moon landing with the Russians. And it was that industrial military complex
No,
that
they weren't
freaked
happy
out
about
completely at that. But he
Yeah.
he would have made space even more accessible, I think, if he had lived.
Anyway.
Tell us about STEM advocacy, because I find this really fascinating. Is that an acronym? Do we break that down, STEM?
Yeah, it's science, technology, STE, education, and mathematics, or environment and mathematics. And basically, it just takes everything and squishes it all together. And what I try to do is, through my medium of using social media, I try to advocate different, how do I say this? Let me break it down. So if you have a scientist that isn't a very good communicator, someone like me can go in and break it down and make it so everyone around them can understand. So there's a few of us that do it. Basically everyone that you saw in that video, they do that. They take the information that is at an event, or it was with a scientist, and they take that information and then they're able to break it down into a certain medium or certain words, or ask certain questions and present it in such a way for everyone to understand. So we're advocating for the STEM part of it, or STEAM.
Right.
STEAM is another one. STEAM. So what's the A? I forget what the A is, but there's STEM and STEAM, and they're basically the same thing. It's all science, mathematics, all that.
Yep. Yeah.
We've reached an incredible point with the internet now that we can have access to stuff that usually was hidden behind closed doors and institutions. And I think what we do need is that bridge over troubled water, because there is a language to academia that makes it seem like it's inaccessible to most of us lay people.
Yeah.
And what we find in the field of anomalous research, certainly there is a small percentage of people that are willing to risk their careers and go forward and say, look, this needs to be investigated. But the majority of people are lay people without degrees there, filling the needs, the dereliction of duty and the neglect from science.
Yeah.
And, I think it's really sad, because science definitely at this stage could come on board and really assist.
Well, science should be leading, the charge into all these things that need to be investigated.
Certainly.
That's their job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But because everybody gets really freaked out about, their reputation and,
funding,
what they're getting funding, and what they
being laughed at, being
believe
ridiculed.
Yeah. that they're afraid to step into something that maybe the mainstream is poo-pooing or saying that there's nothing to this. But until they fully investigate and say, we have done all the investigations and there is nothing to it, then they can't poo-poo anything, or they shouldn't.
Would you have called Alan Alda, the actor from MASH? Was he a pioneer in terms of this STEM stuff?
Well, that's what he was doing. Do you know that about Alan Alda and the actor from MASH?
I do know the actor.
Yeah. Well, he was doing that
he was
exactly.
A big advocate.
He was an advocate
breaking down academic studies.
Academics, and being able to converse with lay people so lay people could understand what was going on in the sciences. So he was a huge advocate. Is he still alive? Did he die recently?
I think he may have passed away recently.
Remember.
But look,
Anyway,
I don't want to bury people on this podcast.
Let's not do that. Let's not do that. Now, are we going to go to...
I've got something really important.
Okay,
before we get to Close Encounters Down Under. I don't want to take this lady's time up because she's got no time. She's doing everything.
I know. She was at work all day. She's come in and
she hasn't even had dinner. She's looking like $1 million. She's
generously giving us her time.
And but you also have this great charm in you where you will, and it's something where a lot of people, especially Western culture, has this fear of following their intuition, not necessarily impulsiveness, but going, okay, I'm going to make things happen for me. This seems like a right decision. I'm going to get on that plane tonight and end up having dinner with a group of headhunters. But you decided at some point that you were going to solo around Ireland on a push bike. Now, how did that happen? Why did that happen?
Why did that? Yeah, that'd be more. Why did that happen?
That's such a beautiful thing.
I was in a relationship and I was unhappy and I just didn't want to be in it anymore. And I felt
that'll
trapped.
do it every time.
And the easiest way for me not to feel trapped, well, I read a book called Round Ireland with a Fridge, and I kind of went, this guy's nuts. He went around Ireland hitchhiking with a refrigerator. And then I met a person who cycled from Sydney to Melbourne on a $50 bicycle. And I was like, that is nuts. I would never do that. But then my brain put those two things together, the book about the refrigerator going around Ireland and the cycling from Sydney to Melbourne. And I went, I'm going to cycle around Ireland. Now, I'm not a cyclist. I don't know. I didn't know how to cycle. I didn't know how to carry stuff. I was afraid of the bicycle. But it actually was the greatest thing I've ever done in my life, because I just got on the bike and it's just, you put one pedal in front of the other and you keep going. And, you think the rain's going to be the worst part or the hills are going to be the worst part, but actually it's the wind, because the wind's coming straight at you and you just keep pedaling, So
you got to pedal harder, don't you?
Yeah.
To push through the wind. Yeah.
And it was just, I had such a great time, and it just changed my life because I was allowed to live again and to breathe again and to feel again, because I wasn't feeling anything at that time. And I went on all these challenges. I took challenges from social media, and I fought as a medieval knight. I went second in the world in sword and shield at this conference. What else did I do? I did stand-up comedy and improv. I just did all these crazy things that you never would have guessed, and it was all thanks because I just decided that I wanted to live again. I wanted to push myself and try something different.
They're really important things for people to know. I think too many people stay in relationships that they're not happy with, and they think it's just not going to get better than that. And they don't realize what sort of draconian control they're living under. And the moment you release that and you go with your heart, I want people to feel that freedom. Don't get in a relationship. Be by yourself. Go for a relationship.
Yeah.
We were so lucky. We found out each other.
We were,
and you
very lucky.
Felt it intuitively. You hadn't even seen me.
No, and I was waiting for you. I knew you were coming.
Oh God.
Anyway, let's not go into that story.
It's
like the birth story. But the thing is like when you try things, it's like you can go along every day and, you've got your job, you've got, your relationship or a family or whatever. And you do, because time, we're all time poor. I don't know what we're busy doing, but we're all time poor apparently. But you just do what, like almost the minimum, the bare minimum to get through. And that's not really living. You have to push yourself, and you've got to say, I'm going to try this. I'm going to try it. I'm going to try this thing. And if it works, great. And if it doesn't, well, I tried it. And, and I can say, well, I tried it and I'm moving on to something else. But if you don't try, you just don't know what you're capable of. And
yeah, I agree.
You just,
because what's the worst that can happen?
Well, nothing. You're just going to find out that you actually, you're sort of mediocre at that. You're not excellent at it, but you've given it a go. It's an experience, and you've gone, well, I've tried that, and it was good. Well, I tried it, and now I'm moving on to something else. But when you actually do find something that you can become passionate about or have a talent in it, then you kind of go, if I'd never tried that, I never would have known that I could do it. And sometimes you've got to be afraid to fail. You've really got to be afraid. It doesn't matter, because you're not really failing. See, it's all about, the way our language is constructed. It's like, if you try this, then you either fail or you make it. And it's like, no, it's not. You're experiencing. Doing it is experiencing.
Yeah. And I think that's what we miss.
Failing or winning. It's got nothing to do with that. It's about experiences, and I think a lot of people miss, pushing themselves out there and experiencing things that they never would have thought that they could. I mean, I've got a whole bunch of things I could say. I tried sculpting, I tried painting, I tried, and I found that I was actually really good at all those things, and I enjoyed doing them. But this is I was 47 when I started, I started sculpting. I'd never sculpted in my life, but out of sheer necessity, I needed to sculpt something because I wasn't going to pay an exorbitant price for something. I thought, you know what, I think I can do that. And I did. I did it. And I'm like, oh my God, I didn't know I had it in me until I actually tried. And I thought, what else? Have I not tried that I could find out that I actually enjoyed doing? It doesn't matter whether I was good or not at it. It's like enjoying the experience. And I think how many people out there are not pushing themselves and trying things that they never thought of doing because they didn't, go to uni or learn. They never had an interest in it at the time, and sort of because they didn't get, a training in it, then they're not going to try it because they can't, they shouldn't.
Well,
that was my rant for the day.
It certainly was.
Well, when I cycled Ireland, I was deathly afraid. I was totally afraid. I didn't want to, even training on the bike here, I was afraid to get on the roads. I didn't want to do it. I was just totally horrified. But everything I've done in life, I'm afraid of. I still do it. I did this thing for the Star Galileo satellite a couple years ago where I was dumped in the North Sea in a life raft, and I got rescued by the Belgian Air Force, and I got winched into a helicopter, and I was really afraid. And I just remember holding on to the Carlos or whatever who was rescuing me, and he had this horse collar around me, and I'm holding on to him, just hugging, and I just kept my eyes closed. And then they just pushed me into the helicopter, and here we are flying around Belgium with the doors open, and I'm like, guys, I'm not strapped in. And they're like, oh, just go hang out with the pilots. And I'm like, but I'm not strapped in, guys.
Yeah.
So, but yeah,
what an experience. What an experience.
I will never do something like that ever again, but it was just the most amazing thing, and I was able to demonstrate the capabilities of a rescue beacon. Who gets to do that? It's just amazing. So, and you get to do those things because you put yourself out there and you go, well, why not? What's the worst that can happen? Well, the worst that can happen is I fall back into the ocean and the Belgian Air Force will save me, right?
That's right.
That's
Yep.
the worst that can happen.
Yep.
And then another thing I always say to people is, if you have a bad day, tomorrow's a new day. Just go to
Yeah.
sleep and wake up, and you get to start fresh again.
Start over
and just
again.
give it another go. Yeah,
Yeah.
just whatever. You have a
And
bad
you
day.
know
That's
what?
okay.
We're
Yeah.
meant to have moments where we have bad days.
Yeah.
Nothing's always meant to be honky
No,
dory.
no,
We're not
no.
meant to have all our desires satiated 24/7.
Yeah.
You know, I think that was one of the most courageous things. And one thing I should state, please go to Terra Australis and have a look. Tara Australis, what am I saying? I'm losing everything
It's
here in
all right.
excitement. Tara Australis on YouTube. Have a look at these videos, because at one point when you're packing and you seem incredibly organized and meticulous for this bicycle ride, you actually express your fear and you go,
Yeah.
it's good. It's good I've got that apprehension.
Yeah, well,
it's good that I'm worried
know.
because I'm going to push through it.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that one of the most courageous things that you did, not the 29 radio interviews, but you went on television in Ireland, which was frightening.
Yes, welcome back to the 7 o'clock show. We're live until 8. Our guests tonight are Andrew Maxwell and the singing Senator Francis Black.
Yeah, I love that. But joining us now, the lady who quit her job in Australia to get in the saddle for a 3-month solo cycle around Ireland. Tara Foster, you're very welcome. How are you doing?
Yeah, really good.
You've brought said pushy along.
I cycled it and boy, are my legs tired.
Oh, you did cycle in?
Into the studio?
Yeah, well, from Dublin.
Yeah, from the train station.
Right,
Okay,
because
okay.
I was down in Wexford earlier.
Yeah, so you took the train up and then on a pushy, which is, of course, the Australian word for a bike.
Yeah.
Now, you're described as an American Aussie.
Right, about 12 years ago, I was on a holiday on a flight from Los Angeles to Sydney, and the person sitting next to me offered me a job.
Okay.
So I moved to Sydney.
All right.
And
Well,
then
that's pretty spontaneous.
Well, yeah, you got to live, right?
Yeah.
Opportunity of a lifetime.
Yeah.
Take it.
Yeah.
So I became a citizen after working, and now I'm an Aussie American. I've been living there for a while, so I identify more as an Aussie rather than American.
So American by birth, Aussie by choice.
Correct.
Is how we would say.
Like Mel Brooks.
Yes.
Not Mel Brooks. What am I talking about? Mel Gibson.
Brooks.
Mel Gibson.
That will be a real surprise to Mel Brooks.
Mel Gibson, right? He's American and became an Aussie.
Yeah.
Oh, all right. Okay. Anyway, tell us about this venture that you've just taken on and why you've chosen
Yeah,
this.
I chose Ireland because...
All right. Yep. That
Well,
was
I mean, that guy sitting next to you, I mean, God.
Mel Brooks.
And you were great on that show. You were so natural and
thanks.
beautiful. Yeah, that was just hilarious. It really was. What a great thing to do. And, I said to the audience, they asked you what was the greatest moment. And I was talking to those school children.
Yeah, that really that was really a gift. I actually cycled in to the school. But there's more to that story, because I went into a few classrooms that day. I was invited by one of the teachers there, and he's like, come in and speak with these classes. We have a few classes. So I went into the first class and I spoke with a classroom of boys and girls. And most of the questions was, how's Alf? What's home and away like? What's Palm Beach like? All these home and away questions. And so I was answering all these questions. And I noticed that a lot of the girls in the co-ed class were quite apprehensive to ask questions. And I was just like, okay, whatever. And then the next classroom I went to was all girls. And that's where the magic happened, because the girls felt comfortable to ask me questions about, well, what do your parents think? What about safety? Aren't you afraid to do this alone? And that's when I went, oh my gosh, this is so important what I'm doing, because this is giving these girls someone like a role model to show them that they can also do this. And I was encouraging them to do things like this, and that it's okay. And their parents don't want to do it, but you got to do it, So that was such a moment for me. And I just knew I had a gift, and I had to treat this gift with respect. I actually had a TV channel contact me, different from the one that I was on, that show I was on. And they wanted to send me out on a hen's night and report back and all this other crazy stuff. And I said, no, I'm not doing it. It has nothing to do with what I'm trying to achieve. And I didn't want to cheapen what I was doing, because I found it so important, not just to me, but to other people that were following the story. So that's why I was quite I was quite protective of what I was doing and who I was doing it with, and letting people in, and just trying to be a role model, because that's what I needed when I was a kid, and I was able to give that to those girls. So it was really nice.
Do you think that in the first class that the girls weren't asking so many questions because the boys were, and they were sort of sitting back and letting the boys, because that's what girls are supposed to do?
The boys were controlling the narrative.
Yeah.
And I didn't clock it until I was in the all girls classroom, and I went, whoa, this is vastly different. And I even pulled aside the teacher and was talking to him about that, and he's like, that's just what happens here, and it was just so important.
Everywhere. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah.
It's amazing to me in the film and television world just how many women behind the scenes run the whole kit and caboodle.
Yeah.
And the men are still out there languishing around, controlling that narrative. How do you find that world today? Are you still dealing with that dilemma?
Yeah.
Oh, it depends. Every show is different. I'm on a lovely show right now, where everyone's just wonderful. But in the past, I've had problems where some of the men are quite fragile, and they don't like it when someone else has more experience in them, and they're just, it's just really hard for them. Yeah, and it's really a shame, because that's when they become really defensive and nasty, and you just have to deal with it. And I just roll my eyes, and I just get on with it, and I just ignore it and just keep doing what I'm doing.
Blame the mothers, you know that, don't you? I blame the mothers.
Or even like, say for instance, this happens quite a lot. There will be one girl on a team of all men, and or say there's two girls and one girl leaves. The whole dynamic changes, and then it becomes quite a feral group, and you have to go in and stand up for yourself a bit more. And it's just not fun, because it takes away from the creative process. But I've been doing this for ages, and I was also one of the youngest editors. Actually, no, I was the youngest editor at CBS News when I started out, and it was quite hard, because you're the youngest person there, and you're one of 3 females on a floor of 20 people, and you just got to keep going and just head down, and you roll the eyes, and you just keep your mouth shut, because that's just all I could do. So nowadays,
there's better pastures to come, isn't there? Do you find now independently, when you've got, everything that I've read about you, even your business attachments about being a producer, they're all very inspiring. They're all very much about, in a way, you come across as a one-person production company. It sounds to me as if you can literally do everything.
Yeah.
Oh, well, it's good to future-proof yourself, because you never know where you're going to end up.
No, you don't. You don't.
Yeah. So, I try to do everything, but my skill set, basically an editor is like being an electrician. It's a skill, and I have a skill that I can fall back on.
It's a huge skill.
Yeah.
Yeah. But producing, it's very abstract, and you're thinking. So I just have the editing as my backup as well. So that's why I do it all. Even when you're doing promos or teasers or trailers or, proof of concepts, you're writing and you're producing. So I do that as well. Writing, producing, and editing.
You have to be an auteur, basically.
Yeah. I also do casting too, which is actually a lot of fun.
But that must be quite remarkable.
That's actually my most favorite job, because I walk around the street and I look for the people that they want, and then I just get all their information and send it back to production.
And you know what? That form of casting is actually very rare now. People usually go through folders
Casting
of
agents.
photographs through agencies, but the best times of film and cinema have always been when people have been cast out of everyday life. Because
and that's what I do.
Yeah. Okay.
We start to lose the real character. Have we got the trailer for Close Encounters?
Yes, we do.
Yes. Let's have a look at the trailer. A little bit of did you edit this trailer?
I didn't know.
Oh, well, okay. Well, it's not your editing.
But you edited the show.
I did episode 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's have a look at
it. A large aircraft below 5,000 feet. What type of aircraft is it? I cannot confirm. It's 4 bright, seems to be like landing lights. It's hovering, and it's not an aircraft.
Nothing was ever found of him or his plane. It just virtually disappeared into thin air.
UFOs have appeared everywhere in Australia.
And there's probably so much more anomalous activity based on just the vast size of our country.
I have no idea what this thing is. The UFO had returned.
Whether it's a metropolitan city, a large town, a country road.
UFOs are out there, UFOs are real. It's no longer science fiction, it's really science fact these days.
I couldn't make it correlate to anything that I'd ever seen before.
Oh, there we go.
Gone. It's gone.
Seems to be playing some sort of game.
We might not be the only intelligence here in the universe.
These crafts defy the known laws of physics.
Cannot identify it. It has such speed.
We cannot ignore the possibility that some objects in the sky are of extraterrestrial origin. In our case is whether we are unique as an intelligent species, or maybe there is a smarter kid on our cosmic block.
We've got to flank Cineflix there and EQ Media. And
Well, we're promoting the show for
and
them,
it's
so-
already gone up and rated really well in
Yeah.
Britain on Discovery Channel
Actually, it's
there.
been. I saw that it was going to be playing in Poland and
Yeah.
all these other countries. I didn't
Ireland,
even realise-
Poland,
yeah,
UK,
Ireland, yeah,
everywhere.
yeah.
So it's 6 episodes. It's a first season. How have we laid those episodes out, Tara?
Oh, it's by region, actually. I don't remember which regions. The
It's
episodes
broken
are
into
in.
states, isn't it? And I
Yeah,
think in
states
New
and-
Zealand.
Yeah. So Melbourne will have one. I think it's Melbourne, Tasmania. There will be some of the Queensland will have their own.
Right.
New Zealand, Papua New Guinea. I think they're in the Queensland episode. Western Australia. So it's all these just different areas.
Right.
But
Okay.
but yeah, the stories are absolutely phenomenal. Like Les's story is actually in the first episode. Les is the guy who's like, I don't know what I just saw, and it was just this weird orb thing that would just kind of slowly come down and then it would disappear behind the trees, but then it just like left. And we're all like, what is it? Is it a balloon?
So he had
Is-
footage
like,
of that?
what is it?
He's
Yeah,
got
yeah, he
footage
had
of that? Oh,
he's
wow.
Out,
Okay.
he's at work and he's talking to his mate on the radios, and they're just
Mm.
going back and forth, and he's like, oh, I don't know what that is. And like that's just, I think that was up in either New South Wales at a coal mining facility, or Queensland or
Right.
somewhere. And also we do the historic stories too. So like
Yeah.
Fred, who went across the
Valentich.
went
Frederick
across the Bass
Valentich,
Strait.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then we don't know what happened to him.
No.
Something happened to the plane, you know.
Yeah.
So that
Well, it
story, and
disappeared.
then
That's what happened.
yeah, and then the what all the children saw in Victoria with the hovering object, and that when was that? That was like
66,
50 years ago?
1966.
Yeah,
Yeah,
long time
Westall.
ago.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
you've got
so-
children there where that object landed that actually touched that object. One of them actually
Mm.
went unconscious. And then all of a sudden the family was removed from the community.
Gone.
The federal
Mm.
police were there with what appears to be American military very rapidly.
Mm.
And I feel those strains of that, even though what I experienced at school wasn't different, but there was a
So did-
desperation in the teachers to make sure that story remained
Yeah.
prosaic.
Do you remember doing Father Gill in Papua New Guinea?
Late
That was
50s, a
late
missionary.
50s, 1956. He was a
No,
clergy. All right, okay. Interesting.
I don't remember.
What-
That
what-
might-
Sorry, Tara, what was your takeaway from it in the end? What did you feel? Was there anything in there that really stood out to you, that really touched you, or?
I believe the people. I believe that something extraordinary happened to them that they couldn't explain, and they wholeheartedly believed in it, and it changed them. That's what I was getting from it. And I mean, some of the footage. I remember this one guy. He was just outside. I think it was during a thunderstorm, and he was seeing these things kind of going up and down. And I mean, it could have been a bird. I don't know, but he genuinely believed that it was something that was going up and down. But what I found most fascinating was later that evening he took video, and he said, "Oof, something just went through me." And then all of a sudden you see this green orb just flying to the barn in front of him. And I'm like,
Wow.
I think that was the most compelling thing that I saw.
Right.
You know, for as an editor who was able to step frame by frame, it was like this long piece of energy that just went through him and out into the ether. You know, it just went out.
Yeah.
So I found that fascinating. And like, I mean, Les's story is quite good, just because we don't know what it is, and you could hear that he didn't know what it was either. So, or there was a guy from New Zealand who just went out for a smoke out, and then all of a sudden there's this alien, and it's this tiny little alien that comes up to his waist, and he's like hanging out with this alien, and then he touched the alien, and it's just weird, and then he passes out. And like these stories are incredible, you know, or driving along and you lose track of time and you don't know where you are in the road because you're driving, and like everyone has experienced, basically, to sum it up, everyone has experienced something, they can't explain it. And I, for one, I believe that something extraordinary happened to them.
You know what? There's something great about Australia and New Zealand in terms of like rural families dealing with this consensus reality conundrum is their tenacious, pragmatic nature. It's like this can occur, but shit, I've still got to get the sheep in. There's the water that I've got to check on. So, honey, just keep an eye on that thing hovering out there. And I found that when I did To Catch a Flying Star for the ABC, is that, you know, landowners out there, they knew their star field. They knew what was occurring on their property. When something unusual occurs,
they know
you
it
can
straight
bet your
away.
bottom dollar that it is something quite unusual. And, you know, there's common sense. You don't have to be a scientist. Even in our technological age today, with drones, the amount of incandescent light out there, people can still use their common sense. And as you said before, when you see an object that stops, starts, hovers, does zigzag patterns, well, you're going to have to be looking at a
sound,
very expensive
no means of propulsion,
drone beyond what we understand, breaking the laws of physics to be a reality. It really pleases both of us that someone as sensitive and as empowering has been one of the forces behind getting this TV series up. And I'm glad it's going internationally. And I know when it hits here, it's going to be an absolute joy. And we're also going to be thrown into the fire with researchers going, why wasn't I on that program? But I believe by the groundswell.
Do season 2.
Well, I think that could be a possibility. Now, we're not going to say anything, but I think there's been so much
There's
interest.
been murmurings of maybe a second season.
Yeah.
So.
And which we may expand.
I might even dust all the bric-a-brac.
Yeah.
This time.
It was so funny seeing our bric-a-brac in
I
there.
loved it though, because it made it great for me to cut stuff because I would cut to it, you know.
But I was looking at it going, maybe we should have cleaned that up and dusted that and pulled out some more things. But anyway, doesn't matter.
I always say when you're in a very clean, dusted house,
that means
you're only all they're doing is cleaning and dusting.
Yeah, that's right. You're not doing anything else. So.
And we're just low rent artists that have always had to resource ourselves. We're very environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
My wife still goes out. She actually collects bottles, recycles bottles. That's how we've paid for the grandkids' dance classes.
Yeah.
You know, we've got a 15-year-old drag queen who's our grandson, who's a profound drag queen. Amazing, highly professional. RuPaul's producers phoned him and said, sorry, I'm going to have to wait. They said, that's okay. Next year. He goes, no, 3 years. But he will get there.
Anyway.
So he's quite creative as well
he is very
as you.
Creative. Yep.
There is one little piece of Tara's I'd like to play if we can have you for a tiny bit longer. That I think will work for the world of the anomalous out there. And that is a trip into a medieval museum. I had no idea there were medieval museums. This is so gorgeous. And this, I take it, is shot by you on the run solely.
Yeah, on my phone.
Okay.
Have a look at this, people. All of us can be filmmakers if you put your mind to it. Come on, pick up your speed.
I've been in Waterford for less than 24 hours, and I have to say, I rate this place. It's tops. Next up, Medieval Museum. So I've been told that these stairs are over 700 years old and to use a handrail. Yeah, this is cool. This is so cool. Waterford is cool. I think I'm underground, and this is cool. Whoa. Guys, I'm loving this. This is awesome. Whoa, look at the ceiling. I'm not a historian here, but it looks like the ceiling has like reed and mud in it, and it's kind of woven in. That's just my observation. I'm not a historian. Now, I'm assuming that that's the original floor and the pavement exposed there on the ground. Is that like a really cool chess set? I know some of you guys that are from the land of castles might think it's kind of weird, but I love castles. I think they're awesome.
Okay. There's more of that. You can go and have a look at it. It's what was that one called?
That was
Waterford Medieval Museum.
Yeah.
Is that where Waterford crystal comes from? That Waterford?
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yep, it's across the street. Like literally across the street. Yeah.
Okay.
Waterford's an amazing part of Ireland. Highly recommend it. There's a lot of Viking history there. They've got I mean, and that's another place if you want to do extraordinary phenomenon, because there's so many ghost stories there.
Yes.
There's things you'll see, banshees, like it's a great place.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, we decided we didn't want to do a spoiler there. We want people to go to your YouTube channel and have a look at that. So is that Tara Australis? Is that the name of that channel?
I think so.
Yeah. It's been a little while since you've been there, but it's an amazing channel and so full of such remarkable things that every single film on there will uplift you and actually will find some power inside yourself that you were completely unaware of. Tara, we cannot thank you enough.
Oh, can I just ask Tara quickly, if there is a second series of Close Encounters Down Under, will you be editing that? Will they get you back to do it?
Oh, I'd
and
love
would you like to do the second season?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it'd be great.
Well,
totally.
Yeah. Yeah.
We have to demand that. We won't do any consultancy work unless she's there.
We, you know, because of the murmurings of that, there might be, you know, we were thinking maybe we should broaden.
Don't say anything more.
I'm just saying, you know, maybe we should broaden it and
Close
take in
Encounters,
other
phenomena.
phenomena.
You know what? This is the interesting thing about the phenomena, and you've explained this.
Yeah.
You're talking about a UFO eyewitness who had an orb come out of their chest.
Yeah.
Now, years ago, you'd go out there as an investigator, you'd ask the angle of elevation, the size of it, its movement, was there sound. You wouldn't go back home with them and find that their clocks had stopped. that they were having poltergeist activity.
Yeah.
They were having all this other peripheral activity. And there is this huge spectrum of anomalous activity. I mean, when I was driving Mission Beat in the city, I had one moment where I woke up one morning to ethereal music coming from nowhere, and it was as clear as day. I ran around the house in my pajamas going, what is happening here? And then I found out years later that there's actually been extensive studies into people hearing ethereal music. So there is just...
There's so much out there that we just don't even consider.
Yeah. But I tell you what, you are a very important person for this world, and we are so pleased to have made your acquaintance, and we can't thank you more for your time and your expertise, and we just wish all power to you. And we hope to keep in touch.
Yes.
Just have a little tiny, maybe I should bring you a terabyte hard drive to just stick to one side when you go through material.
Yeah.
And if there's anything you come across, you keep us in mind. But Tara Foster, Tara Australis, and our cat is screaming out his praises for you as well.
You got to feed him.
He doesn't want food.
He doesn't want food.
He just wants our attention.
You know what? We found out when we inherited this cat at 7 weeks of age that it is the loudest talkingest breed in the world.
All right.
And now that he's come into his
18
final
now.
years,
All
he
I don't
does
know.
is scream.
You can't kill this cat with an axe. I'm telling you now. He just won't go.
But maybe he's picked something up from Asper and I,
Maybe.
and that is the ability to have verbal diarrhea 24/7. We just don't stop. Anyway, we adore you.
Thank you
and
so
we
much.
wish you so much more success in life, and just keep doing what you're doing, because you truly are an inspiration to all, and the Anomalous world is completely grateful to you.
Absolutely.
And I love what you're doing with the show. I love how you're giving real people the chance to talk about this stuff. I think it's really important. So thank you.
I think it's very important. Yeah. Everybody needs a chance. Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah.
So, Tara, you've been on the Untold Radio Network, and we hope to have you back in the future. This is Down South Anomalies, and we just want to say for this week, goodbye. But if this episode doesn't stay with you for the rest of your life,
Nothing will.
Nothing will.
All right. We will
Thanks,
be
guys.
back next week with another fascinating program. Bye.